Artificial intelligence is creeping into our lives in many different ways. It's happening very quickly, again, across many sectors. The insurance industry is one of the industries that is benefiting now from artificial intelligence and programs that help companies work smarter and more efficiently. I got the chance to speak with someone who's on the front lines of this, a company called Zelros. Check out my interview from a bit earlier. My guest today is Linh Ho. She's the Chief Marketing Officer for a company called Zelros, and we're talking about how artificial intelligence is changing our lives in many different ways, and Zelros specifically deals with the insurance industry. So this is interesting. I never would have thought to put artificial intelligence and insurance together, but Linh, hi, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Can you explain to me a little bit what Zelros does? Because you don't necessarily work with consumers, right? You work with insurance companies.
Correct. That's correct. So Zelros is an insurtech or an insurance technology company that offers hyper-personalized insurance recommendations across different channels. So think of us as consumers. We go shopping around for car insurance, life insurance, and the insurers will leverage our technology to provide personalized recommendations for the buyer to say, these are the different types of policies that are better suited for you based on your needs, your history, and we also gather outside data as well to make sure that we leverage data to offer the right type of offers to the customers.
Okay, so it's kind of streamlining the process and making it easier, more efficient, I guess, and just smarter in general. How do you even develop something like this kind of artificial intelligence, and what all goes into that?
Yes, so behind the scene within our platform is artificial intelligence. There's a number of algorithms and machine learning capabilities that will do the heavy lifting of crunching data that we ingest and then be able to then provide those recommendations to drive better effectiveness from an agent experience standpoint, who are at that point of selling and communicating with the customers, as well as online. And there's a big transformation and shift going on in the insurance industry to drive more and more businesses online and better experiences online for the customers. So Zelros can, as you say, streamline and be smarter and offer a better overall customer experience for the insurance business.
Okay. And we hear a lot about ethics when it comes to artificial intelligence, and there are just so many questions. It's such a new universe that we're building, it seems like. What are kind of the ethical concerns and the things that Zelros and other companies do to make sure that these programs that we're creating are inclusive for all customers?
Yes, definitely. With the wide adoption of AI in general comes with bigger responsibilities. And I think more and more companies, and including the insurance industry, are adopting or developing a responsible AI or ethical AI framework or governance to ensure that that the use of AI is fair, explainable, and at the end of the day, it's building that trust with the consumers that, yes, we can trust that these algorithms are providing me very fair recommendations. Also that if there are predictions or recommendations or whatever the algorithm that you're using behind the scene, and even I'll take a step further, sometimes AI will also make decisions on our behalf. And so if that's the case, let's make sure that there are no unintentional biases that creep into the algorithm, that those algorithms are designed, developed, then monitored and tracked to ensure that there are no deviation or unintentional societal or cultural biases that sneak into the system.
Yeah, so how do you make sure of that? Is it more just having a diverse team that is building the AI, or what do you do to kind of really keep tabs on that and keep yourselves honest?
Yes. Well, in technology in general, I think I've had a long career in technology in general, and you always want to think about, yes, the people side of things, right? We're developing the technology, designing the technology. There's the process, and then the technology itself. And I think on the people side is, as you say, ensuring that you have a diverse team represented, especially in designing and developing the algorithms that you have good representation across the board at the table when it comes to that design and development stage. Then ensuring that you also have a process and a governance initiative in place to again proactively monitor, track, and it's a journey. So you want to monitor and track and ensure that you have capabilities in place to detect any deviations or any unintentional biases, to then be able to take those corrective actions, or if you need to retrain the algorithm, that you have a process in place for that. And then, of course, with that, then you need the technology to support and underpin that ability.
It's so fascinating how, we're this whole new world that but it's good to have those safeguards in place for sure. And I want to talk about you a little bit. You just said you've had a long career in tech, which, traditionally, and I'm glad it's changing, but it's kind of felt like a boys' club for a long time. Have you felt that too? And what's it like being a woman in a leadership role in this tech company?
Yes, I think I've been lucky in my journey, my career. I would say that sure, there are certainly times where it's a little cringing, and a little cringing conversations that you have to have. But I think that the good thing about it, as I say, is more and more conversations are happening, and I think the awareness is now there. Are we there yet? I don't think so. I think it's still a journey. But I am very proud, though, to say, though, at Zelros, we take this very seriously, and we also measure ourselves against market indexes and things like that. And so the professional equality index for Zelros is 89 out of 100, whereas I think a lot of companies are still aspiring to be 50-50. And so that part I'm very proud. And also I'm working with the leadership team here that are very big champions of making sure that we have diversity, inclusion, and equity as well, in our company.
That's wonderful. What would you tell maybe young Lynn, some of the challenges that you were facing as you were coming up, or just to young women who, want to pursue a career either in a STEM field or in tech specifically?
I would say don't give up, and I would say that if you aspire to be an astronaut, go for it. If you aspire, but you also, I think, on the other side, I think our generation, we can do a better job of exposing the younger generation with those possibilities. And I was lucky enough to get exposed to, I would call it like early days artificial intelligence, where in sixth grade I was able to tinker with a computer and some robots and make the robot move around, in the early days. But having the exposure early, and know that you have, that the mentoring, the coaching, and the cheerleading behind you to help you continue to be on that path, it is important. And I think there are now more and more organizations that have been created to provide that kind of opportunities for the younger generations, and we need to support and help fund some of those organizations so that they continue to do that, and provide those opportunities for the next generation.
For sure. And I want to just talk a little bit more back about insurance a little bit, because for folks watching this, they're more concerned. They hear insurance. The bottom line is money. How do I save some money on my insurance? Let's be honest, insurance companies, not generally the most well-liked among consumers. So, I mean, do you have any general advice to folks when they're shopping around for insurance, just to get the best rates, and or just some general tips, and maybe how Zelros is hopefully contributing to that?
Yes, sure. So I think when it comes to insurance, there's multiple factors, right? There's your own risk appetite, how much risk are you willing to take? You're also your own budget and where you are in life, and such. And I think these different factors are there for you to consider. But also, I would say, as a word of advice too, I think insurance, when you think about insurance, is you buy a policy and then you shelve it and you think, I'm not going to touch it until you really have to touch the policy or submit a claim. And so I would definitely consider your risk first. Your risk changes, your risk category changes as you progress in life. From being a single to married with children to buying a house and so on. But also, I would say that the sooner you plan, the better. And there are also external forces too that there's climate change. We're seeing more and more natural disasters happening, and how that impacts communities and homes, and insurance has a role to play in those situations. So those are the type of risk categories that change. And I think as a consumer and as an individual, these are the things that you need to consider and think about, especially if you're living in the high risk zone or a zone that has changed over the last 5-10 years.
Yeah, it seems to be a large part of the country that for many different reasons. And I'll just ask you, looking like 10 years from now, do you think that this kind of artificial intelligence will have had even more of an impact? I mean, where do you see this in like 10 years?
Yes, well, we're already talking about sustainability. We're also, how do we leverage technology to make the world a greener place? So sustainability is definitely an area where technology can play a role in. Also, another area that I think AI and technology plays a role is, and I'll relate it back to insurance. Things that we're already talking about is telematics, and for instance, like car insurance, at some point will become like a usage-based insurance, right? Where especially with the self-driving cars, and then you've got insurance on top of that, and the technology can assess really hyper-personalized that insurance policy to when you drive, how you drive. That could, that would be interesting to see come into fruition.
Yeah, you're right. That it seems like it should be a lot smarter than folks who just have cars that sit for months at a time, or we do all drive very differently. Well, Lynn C. Ho, thank you so much. We appreciate it. If folks want to find out more about Zelros, again, you don't work directly with consumers, but what is your website, best way for folks to kind of learn more about you guys?
Sure, Zelros.com, so Zelros.com.
All right, Lynn, the Chief Marketing Officer for Zelros. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Graham.
So certainly interesting conversation there. Appreciate Lynn's time, and it'll be interesting to see how artificial intelligence, AI, changes all of the aspects of our lives as we move forward.